It was the height of the Cold War, 1965, when the Soviet Union began constructing its most secret and ambitious military facility, codenamed the Ark. Conceived as the ultimate underground command bunker, it was designed to preserve the nation's ability to retaliate after a nuclear strike. Buried deep beneath layers of reinforced concrete and granite, the Ark was engineered to survive the unimaginable, a direct thermonuclear impact. It became the most secure, the most expensive, and arguably the most dangerous structure ever built. The project's chief architect, Igor Vorontsov, was a structural engineer in his mid-30s, known across the Soviet scientific world for his precision, brilliance, and near fanatical dedication to perfection. For Vorontsov, the Ark was more than a military commission, it was the pinnacle of human engineering, his life's ultimate masterpiece. But as the project advanced into its final stages, professional pride turned into growing horror. He began to realize that the Ark's purpose was not to preserve civilization, but to guarantee that civilization could end with absolute certainty. A survivor of World War II, Vorontsov was a secret pacifist, haunted by the ruins he'd once seen. Now he understood this structure would not protect humanity, it would only ensure that no one survived its failure. Traditional sabotage was impossible. Every system was triple redundant, every corridor monitored, every screw accounted for. Any attempt to tamper would be instantly detected. So Vorontsov conceived something different. To hide salvation inside perfection, he would build a flaw so subtle, so deeply woven into the Ark's design, that no one could find it yet, one that would awaken only at the moment of global annihilation. He called it the ghost button. Officially, it existed as structural defect 404. Its genius lay in its invisibility. It wasn't a switch, wire, or bomb. It was a deliberate structural imperfection, masked as a safety feature. Using acoustic physics rather than electronics, Vorontsov embedded it within the main air circulation shafts, where they intersected the central seismic stabilization strut. He calculated that when the Ark entered full combat launch mode, when auxiliary power roared to life, outer blast doors sealed, and deep air recycling reached maximum pressure, the resulting combination of resonance and stress would, after 5 minutes, trigger a microfracture along the defect 404 line. The bunker wouldn't collapse. Instead, that imperceptible fracture would destabilize the environmental control system, responsible for maintaining the missile guidance, computer's exact temperature and pressure. Within moments, the corrupted readings would cascade through the system, freezing the launch sequence. The apocalypse would quietly abort itself. To hide the truth, Vorontsov disguised the anomaly as a compensatory expansion joint in official blueprints, and wrote the full explanation, calculations, triggers, and motives in a small leather-bound diary. Every word was in fluent German, a language irrelevant to Soviet military engineers, and therefore safe from scrutiny. His final note read, "The Ark's strength is its weakness. I have built the safety catch that will save us from ourselves. They will call me a traitor, but history must remember me as a guardian of life." By 1968, the Ark was operational and celebrated as the most secure structure in the world. But Vorontsov's fate unraveled through human jealousy, not discovery. His envious colleague, engineer Krylov, suspicious of his brilliance, combed through his records seeking error. He never uncovered defect 404, but found irregularities in the procurement of a rare alloy linked to the command core. Reporting this to the KGB, Krylov expected a minor inquiry. Instead, investigators unearthed Vorontsov's earlier academic correspondence with Western scientists. These harmless exchanges in structural physics were twisted into a charge of espionage. Vorontsov was arrested, interrogated for weeks, and tortured for confessions of sabotage he refused to give. To protect the ghost button, he admitted only to negligent contact with foreign academics. Knowing this false admission would still condemn him, but his silence would protect the world. In 1969, a secret tribunal declared him guilty of treason. He was executed, his name erased from Soviet history. His diary, sealed in a classified KGB archive as evidence of betrayal, was never translated its true purpose buried forever beneath the layers of the state's paranoia. Thus, the man condemned as a traitor became humanity's invisible savior. The Ark still stands, unbroken, carrying within its concrete heart the silent flaw that saved the world from perfection. The secret of the ghost button remained buried until the Soviet Union collapsed. In the early 1990 seconds, as once sealed archives were opened, structural engineer and historian Anna Koval was assigned to review the Ark's blueprints before its final decommissioning. She was immediately struck by the bizarre case of Igor Vorontsov, a brilliant engineer executed for the vague and inconsistent charge of transferring non-secret correspondence. Such a flimsy accusation made no sense. Her curiosity, driven by this contradiction, led her deep into restricted military archives. There, she unearthed Vorontsov's sealed KGB file, containing his personal belongings and a small leather-bound diary written entirely in German. Fluent in the language, Anna began translating it. To her astonishment, it wasn't filled with ideological statements or coded messages. It contained precise, highly technical notes. Each page detailed complex equations, hand-drawn schematics, and annotations describing something called defect 404. The deeper she read, the clearer it became. This was not espionage, it was sabotage. Comparing Vorontsov's sketches with the Ark's official declassified plans, Anna identified the location of the compensatory gap he described. When she overlaid both schematics, the horrifying realization struck her. The so-called expansion joint was in fact a deliberate failsafe, designed to collapse the bunker's guidance systems under specific launch conditions. Vorontsov had built a self-neutralizing mechanism into the Ark's core. Her analysis confirmed his silent heroism. Had the full nuclear launch protocol ever been activated, defect 404 would have triggered within minutes, corrupting the command center systems and preventing any missile launch. Humanity had been unknowingly saved by a dead man's design. Anna understood the explosive implications of her discovery, yet she also knew that the scientific and military establishment would likely dismiss her findings as conspiracy or coincidence. The Ark had operated flawlessly for decades. No one wanted to believe its creator had intentionally sabotaged it. To prove her claim, Anna needed more than equations. She needed evidence of deliberate intent. She turned her focus to Vorontsov's rival, engineer Krylov, whose jealousy had led to Vorontsov's arrest. From newly released interrogation transcripts and maintenance logs, Anna learned that in 1968, Krylov had ordered a stress test on the Ark's ventilation system exactly where the defect 404 was hidden. His report stated that the joint was unnecessarily loose but within safety tolerance. Krylov had unknowingly tested the flaw but missed its purpose. His oversight was fatal. He measured static strength, not the resonance that would occur only during a full-scale nuclear launch. Using modern seismic modeling software, Anna recreated the Ark's launch environment. Feeding in Vorontsov's altered measurements, Krylov's stress data, and the theoretical power output, she ran the simulation. The results were conclusive. Under the precise frequency of launch sequence, micro-shearing vibrations would destabilize the guidance computers. Within 5 minutes, their data integrity would collapse, freezing the system before any missiles could fire. Vorontsov's genius had used physics, not politics, to disarm apocalypse. But Anna needed a human element to make the world believe. Searching public records, she discovered Vorontsov's only surviving family member, his daughter, Irina, now an elderly music teacher, living in quiet isolation. Irina had spent her life under the shadow of disgrace, convinced her father was a traitor. When Anna visited her, Irina was reluctant to speak, offering only one memento from her father, a handmade wooden metronome he had built for her as a child. At first, Anna thought little of it, until Irina mentioned a strange instruction her father had left, that she should always set the metronome to a very specific, uncommon tempo, marked by a tiny scratch on its surface. The moment Anna heard the number, she froze. It matched the exact vibration frequency that triggered defect 404 inches, her simulation. The metronome was not a sentimental gift, it was a cipher, a hidden message encoded in rhythm. Vorontsov had left his daughter the key to understanding his secret, knowing that someday someone might listen closely enough to hear the truth. For Irina, the revelation was shattering. Her father had not abandoned his family for betrayal. He had sacrificed his life to prevent humanity's destruction. With tears in her eyes, she agreed to help Anna bring the truth to light, presenting both the metronome and the translated diary as living proof of her father's redemption. Anna Koval's mission was no longer academic. It had become a moral crusade to resurrect a forgotten hero and expose a 30-year-old safeguard buried beneath the Cold War's paranoia. With Irina's consent and the metronome in hand, Anna prepared for the defining moment of her career, an international security conference on nuclear de-escalation. Before an audience of generals, scientists, and historians, she intended to prove that one man's supposed treason had quietly saved the world. The stage was set like a courtroom. On one screen, Anna projected the 1,965 arc blueprint, highlighting the faint compensatory joint. On the other, she displayed the decrypted page from Vorontsov's German diary, covered in equations for acoustic resonance. The symbolism was perfect two maps of the same truth. From the beginning, the audience was skeptical. Military officials dismissed her claim as romantic speculation, insisting the flaw had been corrected decades ago. Others accused her of political bias. Anna stood unshaken. With calm precision, she invited Irina Vorontsova to the stage. The elderly woman, dressed simply but radiating dignity, carried a small wooden metronome, the last physical link to her father. Under the spotlight, the object seemed almost sacred. Anna explained the faint tempo mark carved by Igor's own hand, revealing that it matched the precise frequency from the arc's internal resonance. Then she ran the simulation. On the main screen, a 3D model of the arc appeared, solid, immovable, invincible. As the simulated launch sequence began, the model started to vibrate at the metronome's measured tempo. Within moments, the visual display flickered, the command core systems collapsed in digital blackout. No explosion, no drama, just a quiet, perfect failure. The room fell silent. Anna then read Vorontsov's final diary entry aloud. My hand placed the stone that will not fall, but vibrate. I chose a slow failure over an instant victory for madness. The meaning was inescapable. The man condemned as a traitor had been a visionary pacifist who engineered peace through imperfection. The hall erupted in stunned applause and disbelief. The revelation shattered decades of myth. The Ark, pride of Soviet engineering, had been born flawed by design, a monument to moral defiance. The impact was immediate and global. Governments scrambled to respond. The military attempted damage control, issuing statements about theoretical anomalies and inconclusive evidence. But the data, now public, was irrefutable. Independent engineers replicated Anna's simulations and confirmed that defect 404 would indeed have neutralized the bunker's launch sequence under combat conditions. Within months, the Supreme Court officially overturned Vorontsov's conviction for treason. The verdict declared his work an act of extraordinary moral conscience, the first such ruling in the nation's history. Vorontsov was posthumously reinstated with full honors, recognized not as a spy but as a guardian of humanity. His daughter Irina, her voice trembling, accepted the decree in his name. Decades of silence and shame dissolved in that moment. The story of the ghost button spread across the world, reshaping the moral landscape of science and warfare. It forced an uncomfortable reckoning that the most perfect defense system ever conceived had been deliberately designed to fail. Politicians and generals were compelled to confront the ethical burden of technology, how systems built for protection can become instruments of annihilation. The fallout was profound. Several former officials implicated in Vorontsov's wrongful execution were stripped of honors. Museums began exhibiting the Ark's blueprints and the metronome as relics of conscience. Historians hailed the discovery as one of the most significant moral revelations of the post-Soviet era. But the story didn't end there. In the months following Anna's presentation, a quiet panic spread through defense networks worldwide. Secret memorandums circulated among NATO and former Soviet allies. A covert multinational commission was formed to verify Anna's claims in the physical arc structure itself. When the team arrived at the decommissioned bunker, They found everything intact, exactly as Krylov's report had described decades earlier. The compensatory joint appeared harmless. Yet, under growing pressure, they conducted one final experiment, a resonance test, using the exact frequency from Vorontsov's metronome. What happened next confirmed everything. As the pulse frequency built, the command core began emitting a sub-audible hum. Laser alignment systems flickered. Chronometers desynchronized. Within minutes, the entire digital grid went dark. The ghost button had awakened. The truth was undeniable. Igor Vorontsov's flaw still lived within the arc. A whisper of conscience hidden in concrete, a vibration strong enough to silence the apocalypse. The Covert Commission's discovery was devastating. For nearly 3 decades, the world's most feared nuclear command center had been harmless disarmed by a single man's act of conscience. The cost of Vorontsov's so-called treason was the staggering waste of power, resources, and trust spent maintaining a weapon designed to fail. The Commission, unable to deny the acoustic evidence, formally confirmed the operational reality of defect 404 and recommended the full exoneration of Igor Vorontsov. The government faced an impossible dilemma: how to admit that their nuclear shield had been a decoy, sabotaged by the man they executed as a spy. They chose partial transparency, publicly acknowledging a critical, embedded design anomaly in the ARC project. But the full story inevitably leaked. Vorontsov's transformation from traitor to hero was instant. The media called him the engineer of peace, quoting his haunting final line: "I chose a slow failure over an instant victory for madness." Irina, his daughter, accepted the posthumous pardon and national honors on the very steps where he'd once been condemned. Her calm dignity, holding the metronome that carried her father's secret frequency, turned engineering data into a human redemption story. The revelation ignited global shockwaves. Resignations followed among generals and former KGB officials who had silenced him. The ghost button had not only neutralized the weapon, but shattered the culture of blind secrecy that had enabled its creation. Vorontsov's legacy grew far beyond his personal redemption. His quiet sabotage became a foundational case in ethics and defense research, soon known worldwide as the Vorontsov precedent. It challenged the obedience-driven ideology of the military-industrial complex, asserting that a designer's moral duty outweighs orders or patriotism. Engineering schools adopted his case as mandatory study, teaching that conscience can be the highest form of design integrity. The scandal also exposed a deep need for independent oversight of classified megaprojects. From this realization emerged the Global Design Integrity Board, an international body dedicated to detecting hidden ethical or structural fail-safes in defense systems. Its purpose was clear: never again should an engineer have to choose between loyalty and humanity. The ARC bunker itself was spared demolition. Instead, it was transformed into the Vorontsov Institute for Peace and Structural Integrity, a research center and museum devoted to ethical engineering. What was once a monument to annihilation became a sanctuary of reflection. In its heart, the former command core stands open to the light, the steel beam containing defect 404 preserved behind glass. A single brass plaque bears his name, dates, and one simple phrase: "He built the limit." Anna Koval received global recognition for revealing the truth, but her greatest reward was restoring a family's name. In a quiet ceremony, she handed Irina the original German diary, its final pages marked by trembling handwriting, proof of a man who had fought madness with logic and compassion. For the first time, Irina saw her father not as a fallen spy, but as a silent savior who had rewritten the laws of destruction from within. The final image is of silence and light. The ARC's once sealed corridors echo faintly with the hum of servers that no longer run. The metronome rests beside the plaque, its pendulum forever still, its frequency immortalized in global archives. The mystery of the ghost button was solved, but its revelation left a haunting question hanging over every command bunker, data vault, and weapons lab in the world. How many other Vorontsovs are out there? How many moral saboteurs have already built quiet fail-safes into humanity's most dangerous systems, choosing conscience over obedience, restraint over ruin? The new fear is no longer an enemy's attack, but the silent, deliberate weaknesses hidden deep within our own creations. Proof that sometimes the most powerful act of resistance is not to build stronger walls, but to design them to tremble.